Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me this morning's ZBrush stream. First stream after the ZBrush Summit that just happened this weekend. So, nice to have you, even if you're watching this much later on my ZBrush streaming channel. Give me a second to get set up because I had zero time to prepare. Because like I said, this weekend was the ZBrush Summit. So first thing I like to do when I start these streams is just check to see everything is working well. Let's open up Twitch. Let's open up Facebook. Seeing some photos of myself at the ZBrush Summit this weekend. It's one of the big prints I did. And I'll show you today. We'll start off with doing a little Form 2 kind of stuff. We'll do a little bit of cleanup so you can see that process for 3D printing. And then we'll jump into some ZBrush again. But Summit was awesome. Just wanted to give you guys a quick primer on how that went. But first, let's check how it went, if it's working. Alright, you might hear double audio for a second. But first, one of the big checks I did. Yeah, that worked. How it went, if it's working. Alright, so that's good. Facebook link, and that is good. Okay, sorry about that. Had to check. But I am live on these Twitch chats. What up? And I will say the same over here. What about? Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, I'm monitoring both the Facebook and Twitch stuff on this second monitor. So just ask me any questions on there and I'll get right to you. Alright, so ZBrush Summit was this weekend. It was awesome. I went all 3 days. I've got the wristbands to prove it. But it's easier for me because I'm already in Los Angeles, but it was a really great expo that I really like going to for the simple reason that I get to meet a bunch of my friends and hang out for 3 days. Hanging out with really talented artists, old and new. Joe Mena, for example, DC sculptor, and actually sculptor for a lot of different companies, but stuff like that. A new friend, Andreas, the whole DC sculpting crew, Irene, Jack. Jack is like one of the best, you know, for a long time, and a very ripped 50-year-old. Jason, Marsano, Tim, all these guys in like animation industry and toys. Jake Kemper, who's a Formlabs rep, who kind of takes care of me really well. Chris, I met this weekend, who he's the head of animation and art at Guru Studios in Canada that work on Paw Patrol. Dave Wolf, a good friend of mine from LA. Troy from actually met him this weekend too. Fisher Price. Margaret works with me at Sky Castle Studios. So some friends all around. Brett, a friend of mine from Toy Fair. Eddie, friend of mine, friend of a friend who I met in studios when I was first came to LA. Chris, Jeremy, talented 3D artist. Cameron, student of mine, very talented 3D artist. Daniel, you've seen his 3D print stuff all around, I'm sure. His Raptors and new Ultimaker 3D prints are dope. So honestly, the whole point of these summits is to see all these awesome presentations, and you can do the Michelangelo challenge, which is the thing I tried to do. Let's see here. That was my first attempt at the Michelangelo challenge, which is 15 minutes, sculpt something out of a cube. It's really tough to do 15 minutes, and this totally breaks all the rules because you're supposed to carve in, and I totally pulled out. But did the Michelangelo challenge. I tried to do this like Bernini sculpture with two figures kind of like, encircling each other, which was way too much. But it was a really good time at the summit. But it's really about, hanging out with friends and like, getting to just, I don't know, everyone just gets along. It's hard to explain. We're like hanging out late into the night. So if you get a chance, definitely try to come by next year. I'll be here. Also, what was I going to say? Hold on 1 second as I keep my getting prepped. Get my prep on. That's what I was gonna say. Big congrats to Donna, one of my fellow streamers, on winning the organic sculpt off. Awesome job, and good. Congrats to Martin Verhoeven too for winning the heart service category. First guy after Hugh Furio's been conducted into the Hall of Fame for winning the sculpt off 3 times. But super happy for both of them. So congrats all around, and congrats, and great to see all these people, all the winners, all the volunteers, all the participants. And this is like a third, not even like a tenth of the people that came to the ZBrush Summit. So great to see everyone. Got some people showing up on chat. Sean Legg, what's up, dude? Thanks for showing up to the summit. We barely got to talk. Okay, so here's the thing with the summit. There's so many people that all the people I want to talk to, I spend like 10 minutes or like 20 minutes talking to them, and then I'm like off again to someone else and bouncing around. But hopefully we'll catch up soon again, man. Sean did something really funny where we were watching Joe Menace stream, and he waved to me in Facebook, and I didn't even see it. I was just like sitting around and like just like watching the presentation or before the presentation, hanging out, and then I turn around and I see him, and I waved to him in real life, and then I saw that he had waved to me in the phone. I don't know. It's funny to me. He took a picture to the back of my head. Hannibal EX. What's up, man? You make 50 sound old. 50 is not old, but 50 is experience. So you have to, you know, shout it out because it deserves recognition. Jack's got the craziest stories, man. He told me a story about, like, I don't even know if I should tell you guys this, but he told me a story that's not work related, so I'm not breaking any IP stuff, about his daughter running over his dog, and just, it was, yeah, old people have experience, okay? You got to learn from that stuff. Okay, cool, cool. Everything's getting set up. I see questions rolling through. Sweet. Miguel Guerrero, morning, man. Okay, we got to get lunch this week. I barely got to speak with you at the expo at all, either. Marty, what's up, man? Good to see people I know. Benny, what's up, man? Friend from high school. All right, cool. So, getting the Twitch rolling. Bunch of people coming in, so let's get this started. First thing I'm going to do, since I can. All right. What I want to start the day off with is kind of just showing you some Formlabs stuff because I've been doing a lot of big printing for the past week. So what I want to do is just show you my process in taking a print out of the Formlabs machine, the resin printer. It doesn't have to be a Formlabs machine, but any SLA resin-based printer, it's a similar process. So I want to show you the SLA print kind of cleanup process, and then I want to show you a little bit of kind of support removal, sanding, cleanup. That should take about like 10 minutes or so, and then we'll jump into some more sculpting stuff. So let me put on some music. Yikes. Alright, I'll keep the music low because I want to be able to hear myself. Alright, Sean says he's going to be working while he watches, so no worries. Don't worry, dude. Do your thing. That's what stream's all about. Joanne, good to see you briefly across the room yesterday. I think you were there with your mom. I didn't even get to say hi to her. I'm so sorry. It just, Summit is such a mess sometimes, you know? But good to see you this morning again. Alright. I hope she had fun. Okay, so step one, prepping some stuff. Alright, so where should I begin? Let me show you what I've been printing. Alright, got big old dude here. This is a 6.5-inch print that came off of the Formlabs Form 2. Same here. The legs, bottom and top. Both pieces are hollowed out, as you can see. And they're keyed so that they can kind of fit into each other. Now you can see they won't fit perfectly because I have to do a bit of cleanup still on these pieces. It's just kind of fresh off the support removal. But this is a print for a 3D artist, Kafis. Awesome, talented dude out of San Francisco. And trying to get these arms in here to show you both of those. And they say, "Let's rise together," which is pretty dope. So I still have to clean up a bunch of this. Hard to tell on the webcam, I know, but you'll see a bunch of support nubs all over the arm, all over like the back of the body, but none on the front. So that's one thing you learn about 3D printing, is how to orient and support your stuff so that all the supports are usually on the back. Let me show you what this looked like when I did actually print it, so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. Alright, so that's what this printed like. So you can tell all the support structures are on the back end, you know. I never try to have the supports on the front if I can avoid it. Because then way you may like damage the face, or detail parts that you like. So you always try to support stuff upside down and backwards. Also, you can tell I made a giant hole at the top of the head. That wasn't there, but when you make ventilation holes for excess resin to leak out or air to be able to flow through to push out that resin, that's what the extra hole is for. And that's pretty easy to patch up with some Tamiya putty, and then you prime the whole thing anyway. So I'm going to do that later today. Probably won't show that on cam because I don't want to be doing any spray painting in home, but we'll show you this process later. If you stick around on my stream, you'll eventually see me do all sorts of prep and preform for printing. So there's that. Alright, so this guy, I guess the most common question is always, how long does something like this take to print? And this is about, I'd say, 3 days of printing, because overnight, part 1, overnight, part 2, the body, and overnight, part 3, the arms. So about 3 nights. Actually, there's another piece to this that Kafis made, this awesome beatbox that rolls with this dude. So there's a print of that. And you can see the Form 2, it just does a really good job of printing all of this stuff really clean. It's just a matter of knowing where to put the supports. And you can see all the support nubs are like right there at the bottom. So this is actually a good way to show you some support cleanup, because you see all those support nubs in my hollowing hole right there. I don't really need to worry about it because the detail's at the bottom, but I like to clean it up. Alright. Putting stuff around. Cleanup is really simple for like long flat surfaces like that. You can just use a sanding block. I like these kind that I can pick up from Home Depot that have a little bit of curve to them at the end. And you can get them in multiple grits. I've got them at like heavy grit, medium, and fine. And literally it's just a matter of sanding. Like sanding repeatedly. I'm trying to find a good angle here. Hard to tell on the webcam because it's always like reversed of what you see. But anyways, that's basically what you got to do. Just sand it a lot. And let me do it a little bit down here. I've got my wastebasket. You can just put stuff in there. And you can see I'm pretty fast and loose with it, Especially for like a flat piece at the bottom. You can be pretty fast. And what I like about this is like Honestly, I spend so much time digital sculpting and digital prepping and digital keying and stuff like that. Digital rigging these days, a lot of in my work, and posing. So it's nice to do something physical with my hands, at least, you know, a few times a week. Let me double check. You guys have any questions going on Twitch already? Okay. Sean Lake saying, gloves are on. Let's do lunch soon. For sure, dude. All right. Hannibal EX says, I'm printing a quarter scale superhero related work. For sure. Radio Raw 33M. I'm not really sure what that means, man. Is that the name of this radio that I'm showing you? It might be. I'm not familiar. How much resin was being used while hollow? Asked Kurt. I have a liter of old resin I need to use up, and I want to print something big. That's a good question. Let me open up the preform file, and we can see how much resin was used to print this bad boy. Sculptman84 says, great to see you at the summit. Great to see you too, dude. But I don't know what your Twitch handle is standing for. Who am I speaking to? It's really fun at the summit to meet a bunch of people that you only see online in person. Alright, so Ninetail has a question. No such thing as a dumb question, dude. Alright, I'm a recently graduated generalist, and ZBrush is 20% off until tonight at 11:59. It's tempting to grab a $200 discount, but as a 3D generalist, animator, rigger, modeler, whatever, I know ZBrush is the industry standard, but what exactly would have it prepare me for? Or what would I for sure need ZBrush for? That's a good question, man. So Ninetail, ZBrush is a modeling software, first and foremost. That's the primary function of ZBrush. You can do animation, you can do a ton of lighting, you can do texturing, but it's primarily for modeling and sculpting. That said, every year, ZBrush does release a lot of really cool plugins, like they just released this past summit. They update the software and give away free updates. They add features that users want. Like they added UVs and folders this year. So I highly recommend picking it up for 200 bucks because that's a really good deal. You'll get to use it for sure. It'll easily make up 200 bucks investment. As far as at work, I use it, I'd say, I don't know, 50% of the time. Like bouncing between ZBrush and Maya these days at my work. For my home stuff, same thing, 50-50. But some people, you know, and sometimes I've been using ZBrush for 90% of my work as a generalist too, because so much of it involves sculpting and then retopologizing and then prepping for print. I can do all of that in ZBrush. Articulation, preparing stuff for print, a bunch of that you can do in ZBrush. So I'd say it's definitely worth the price tag. Alright, so in preform, I'm opening up the model right now. Hold on, I gotta navigate over to it. There we go. 3 Smiths, Jobs, 2018, Kfus. And let's open up the body, because the body's the biggest piece. 200 off, not 200 total. Okay, 716 right now. Honestly, still worth it, because if you get 1 gig that will pay you $1,000, it's kind of done. You know, it's already made up its money. So I got ZBrush, I think it was 400 when I bought it, and it was a while ago. And then they've given me consistent updates, so I'm really happy with it as a software. $200 off is pretty, it's, you know, 700 may seem extreme to you, but, you know, in this 3D industry, for example, if you get a job in collectibles, working for DC Collectibles, they pay by the inch. So if you're sculpting a character for them that's 6 inches tall, you may make something like $6,000, you know? So that's easily paying off ZBrush with 1 job, and then some. So though it may seem like a lot up front, if you really, you know, master it, it's totally worth it. And you gotta invest in yourself in order to make the money or get the skills in order to get better. The good thing is now, honestly, you don't need, you know, to spend 80 grand on college like I did. Honestly, you don't. You probably only need to get the software, and you need to get training online. And you can get online training for as little as $500. That's one of my online classes for the 3D printing and ZBrush artist, which I'll be launching soon. Then there's other classes you can get for like, you know, $12 on Gumroad. So, why is the body print? Okay. That's it. Alright, so, oh, Shane's class is solid. 3D Character Workshop, I highly recommend that too. Or Michael DeFeo's class. If you just want a really good basic primer on ZBrush, Mike DeFeo's class on Mold 3D Academy is solid. Sculptman 3484 is Angelo. What up, dude? Okay, good to see you, man. You look great this weekend. Alright, Chrome Illusion is asking, do you use the FDM printers? Yes, I do. So, today I'm wearing the Formlabs shirt and I'm showing you form stuff, but I also have the Raise 3D N2 Plus right here, which is my FDM printer, 12 inch by 12 inch by 24 inch build volume. So, I really enjoy both. FDM gives me the ability to prototype and print big for very cheap, and the Formlabs stuff gives me the opportunity to do really clean prints. So, yeah. Side effects. What's up, dude? Kurt's saying he bought ZBrush over 9 years ago when it was 400. Sounds about right. I've been ZBrushing since 1.5. So, it's been a while. I think we're on ZBrush what? Shit, I don't even know what number of ZBrush we're on now. The summit was great. I feel enlightened with knowledge. Probably too much, man. I have to watch all of the streams because I wasn't watching the presentations live. I was hanging out. So, I'm going to watch the streams when I get a chance. Probably through the week. Okay, so, been sanding for a little bit. And you get the idea, you know, just with a little bit of sanding. This was pretty fine grit. I've already cleaned up a lot of the bottom support nubs. So these are really smooth already. Obviously not perfectly even. You can tell there's like a little bit of bump, but there's not actually a bump. It's just kind of a texture now. So if I prime this, you're already not even going to see these bumps. But that's something that you can take away from that. Basic sanding. I'm going to show you guys a different print, which is the base for another character that I'm printing right now, which was prepared by Kyle over at Aaron Sims Creative. And he's just, I'm not going to show you the whole thing, because that's a thing for a client, but the base is literally just a base. It's a piece of rock, and he was awesome about labeling these parts, part A, part B, and that's super helpful to a 3D print artist like me, because I can like very quickly know it's keyed right, I can check the scale, I can print it. Now these are printed solid, so these use more resin than Kafis's prints, which were hollow. Kafis's print, by the way, the ones I was just showing you, here we go. So this guy, the body, uses 182 milliliters, but look how much of the build volume it takes up, almost all of it. But the reason I only use 182 milliliters is, if I hollow through it, you can see it's pretty hollow. I mean, there's some supports generated on the inside, and I'm pretty conservative with my hollowing thickness, so I keep it pretty thick just so I know there's no like vent holes that pop up out of the middle of nowhere. But still, this is using almost the entire build volume of the Form 2, and it's 182 milliliters. So if we want to break down the cost, it's really simple to calculate, for ourselves in any case. So it's $150 per liter of Formlabs gray resin, which is what I'm printing this stuff in. And if you multiply that by 182.61. Basically, it's like you got to divide it. So this is by milliliter, and that's the liter cost. So you got to divide this by 100, or no, by 1,000, which is basically 0.15. So the cost to myself is 0.15, and we can make that 0.16 with tax and shipping of like the resin. So 0.16 is the cost of the resin per milliliter cube. Now we multiply that by 182.61. That's including the supports. So we get a cost of 29.216. So basically $30. So it's a $30 cost to me to print it. Now if you add print time, because it takes something like 14 hours to print this at 50 microns, maybe you can say that's like $15 worth of electricity and print time that you could have been doing something else, $45. Then you charge shipping for someone to, to send this to someone, or maybe you charge cleanup time, $10 for this, or maybe a little bit more. Shipping would be probably 10 to 15. Tax would be 9% out of California. So I'm not really going to calculate it right now, but you're basically looking like $80 for me to print something like this for someone, plus like print prep time and like getting things hollowed and keyed and oriented and supported properly. So basically like a hundo for one piece. And so you can calculate based on like the whole size of things how expensive things can be to print for other people. And it's really, you set the rate because you're the guy who's doing the printing service. I tend to charge more than 0.15 milliliters for the resin cost, because you also have to factor in the fact that the print tray degrades over the time. So the more prints you do, the bottom of that tray starts burning out with the laser constantly hitting it, and that's one of your expenses that you need to get the client to fulfill, because you're burning out the tray usually on their print. Hope that makes sense. So yeah, usually it's not 0.15. I usually charge something like 0.60 or more, 60 cents per milliliter. And so that's how I basically get my calculation for how much to print or how much it costs to print. But for me, it would have only been $30 if I was doing something of mine at that scale. Get it? Okay. So questions. Let's see here. Powell Sinoic saying hi, don't know me. That's fine, man. I'll get to know you. What's up? Thanks for joining. Kevin Mossy. Awesome. People joining in on Facebook. Cool. Keto saying it makes sense. What I'm talking about. Alright. I'm going to sit down while I look at questions. Kurt saying, so I'm guessing the whole character might be around 500 milliliter in total with the parts hollowed. Sounds about right. Maybe 600, because there was that whole stereo too. So there was the body, there was the legs, there was the arms, and the stereo. So printing a whole character about 12 inches tall, assuming it's 500 milliliters. Let's see. 500 milliliters times 0.16. So it's basically like $100 for you to print your own character at about 12-inch height if you hollowed it properly. Alright, Grim the Reaper is asking, what's the more affordable 3D printer to maintain and use long term? Resin refills and such. I'm thinking eventually starting up my own business or helping my girlfriend get her business off the ground. She makes jewelry. Okay, so first off, if you're making jewelry, get a form or get a printer that can print in wax. Because there is wax-based resins that you can get for SLA printers. And that's ideal because you can just print something, take it over, or ship it to a foundry. They can do the lost wax cast process right off your print. Which is the more affordable printer? That's a hard question. Both these printers are about $3,500. So they're about the same professional range price. And the other question, part of your question, was to maintain long-term. Maintain and use long-term. So I've been using the form for about a year, doing at least weekly prints. And it's a workhorse. It hasn't been giving me failures until very recently. And all I needed to do was pop it open, clean up the galvanometer mirrors, put it back together, and it's been fine. It did that whole big print after I did the cleanup. So it is easy to maintain, but you got to understand what you're doing with 3D printing in order to get good results out of it. It's not a Star Trek replicator. You don't just press print and hope it comes out good. There's issues. The FDM printers, I'd invest in them because you can prototype and it's very cheap. It's not $150 per liter of resin. It's like $15 to $20 per liter of plastic spool. So you can actually do much more printing, much quicker, much easier without worrying about cost if you do FDM. And I think some printers, the FDMs like the CR10 and stuff, they're down to like a few $100s. Yeah, so there you go. All right, so let me show y'all some print cleanup stuff again. Now these are bases for Kyle's print, and some of the stuff is really easy. So maybe if I just demonstrate it, you'll get the idea. Because this is a solid print, and I've made the support nub size pretty small, mostly. And this is solid, and this is a base, and it's all at the bottom of the base. I'm not worried about having to snip all the supports off bit by bit. I can actually just do a bit of crunching. And you can see, just ripping it by hand, it's all coming off. It comes off pretty clean. And so I can just do a little bit of crunching, and I'm going to go down here to do a bit of that crunching, because it's going to get, you can see I'm just kind of pushing it in with my finger. But these supports tend to fly, so I'm just going to go down here, rip them off. Okay, and there you go. Supports ripped off, and print ready to continue cleaning up and sanding. So support removal can be this easy, depending on what you're printing. And then I just need to sand the bottom again, because the bottom's just got all these support nubs. You see all those support nubs? So those just need to be cleaned up now. So sometimes, it can be literally that simple. Sometimes it's more complicated. Like you can see on the inside of this piece, there's some supports. So I can use something like a plier to just reach in and pull those out. And there you go. Key's cleaned up now. Pretty quick, pretty simple. Now we can even test it against this piece to see how it fits together. I'm not sure if A goes into B, or I think it does on the other side. So let me rip this out too. When you print hollow, you got to be careful with these prints, because you don't want to just rip the supports off. But when you print solid and you've done your diligence and it's all at like the bottom and stuff, then you can just rip it. What I really liked about certain printers, like the EnvisionTech printers that I used, is the support removal is so easy. Alright, here we go. Now you got to be careful because the support removal will sometimes rip your gloves. I need a new glove now. That's fine, I got plenty. Alright, so these don't look like they key into each other. Oh, they do, right there. So you can tell Kyle did a great job keying these and giving me files that were like perfectly print ready to go. So eventually, I'm going to print out this whole base. It's going to be a big base, and then there'll be a big character on top of it. And I can't show you any of it right now because it's a client project, but I can show you hopefully when the client releases it. There are 2 more pieces to the base that I printed last night. So those are on the printer right now, and I can start taking those out to show you that process of fresh out of the printer. So I'm going to get a new glove. This one's fine. This one's ripped. New glove. These are the gloves that I use. Amex Black Nitrile. You can see the brand right there. And you can order them in bulk on Amazon. Okay. Okay. So, popped open the printer, pop the lever up at the top, and there you go. That's it. Slid the tray out. There's the prints that were done last night on this printer. This one looks interestingly janky, but I'm not sure if that's part of it or if that's a mistake. I'll have to check the print files. Let me open up the print files to double confirm that this print turned out good. Let's see here. New. Open. Desktop. Opening that up. And then we can compare and contrast how the print turned out versus what the preform file looks like. And shrink this down a bit. Zoom in. All right. Nope, that looks right. It was just, it looked a bit strange to me because of that strange cut right there. But that is actually built into the model. I'll pull these up side by side a bit so you can see. Yeah. So there's the print as prepped in preform. Another couple pieces of the base. Now we have to remove it from the build tray and put it in the isopropyl bath solution. This is taking longer than I thought. I wanted to get to sculpting, so I'm going to finish this up soon. I'm going to tell the printer that was a successful print. I'm going to use my prying tool to pry these off. Now, I'd like to have both my hands to use when I do this. So Formlabs has this really handy dandy, I don't know what you call it, handle, I guess, that you can snap on into the build tray. And you can hold it like this, or because it's got a flat base, you can just put it down on the ground, or you can hold it like, you know, at an angle. Whatever really makes it easy for you to remove the supports. I like to just put it like this, and oftentimes hold it. Then I grab the print usually from the top if I can, and then just pry it off. So, not that hard to remove it from the build tray. I'm going to put it in the isopropyl bath solutions here. Remove the second one. Removed it, putting it in the second bath solution. I'm going to clean up my tool. And I'm going to clean up this build tray. Now I like to keep this super clean because I may not be printing in gray resin next time. I may be printing in clear resin. So you want to keep this pretty clean. And so far I've only used one paper towel. I'm going to keep using this one. Do a little dip in isopropyl. And then wipe it with that isopropyl. Now you can tell my tray's I've been using this for about a year, and it's getting pretty scratched up. But honestly, the more scratched up it is, the better the prints adhere to it. So it's a good thing. I've never had to replace one of these trays. Okay, done. With that cleaned up, I can pop it off the arm and put it back in. Pop the printer open. Slide that in, close the door. I'd like to do a double check of this wiper. And that's it. That print is gold. Now I'm going to have to take those prints that I put in the isopropyl solution out in about, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes. But until then, we can do something else. Hope that was useful for you guys to see. I know a few of you that already have Form 2s or SLA printers. It's new for you, but I usually get requests to show this process every week, which is too much. And I'm saying I get the requests every week, not that I... Let's see here. Keto's asking on Facebook, what's a good printer to start with if I just want to make something small and simple like charms? If you're just fresh to 3D printing and you want to start learning, I'd say go with a pretty cheap, inexpensive printer. There's this one list I really like that 3D Hubs makes called, I think, yeah, 3D Hubs Best Printers 2018, and you'll get this 3D printer guide. And I really like this guide because it goes all the way from pro consumer to workhorse, budget, and plug and play. So you can see all the different types of printers that they recommend. So prosumer would be something like the Ultimaker 3, which is, you know, $4,000 price tag. The Raise, about $3,000. Form 2, about $3,000. But if you scroll down to budget, now these are printers that you can build yourself, or they should be. Here, like the CR10, for example, it's $500 price tag for this right now. Maybe even less on Amazon now. This may not have been updated. Here, mono price is $200. Craftbot, about $1,000. Lulzbot Mini. I don't know. I like recommending the CR10 because I've seen good results off of it. That people have made good stuff. So that might be something you want to check out first. A quick build your own printer. But yeah, just read through this list. Alright, Zhangchu Boxes is saying, do you have a YouTube page for study of your tutorials? Not a YouTube page, but I've been doing the ZBrush stream for a little bit. So you can go to you can go to pixelogic.com ZBrushLIVE presenters, and you can see all these awesome artists like Shane Olson, Ashley Adams, Timothy Rapp, Danny Mack, Tomas Whittelbach, Awesome Jewelry Sculpting, and you can even see Joseph and Paul have a lot of videos. You know, the guys who run ZBrush and develop it. And scroll down to me, Aiman Akhtar, and you can see some of mine in the past broadcasts and schedules. You can also see Donna Urdinov, Macedonian, I believe. And she's the winner of the Sculpt-Off as of yesterday. So our organic sculpting champion. And so there's all sorts of videos that you can see on here. So there's all of my videos that I've done, the past streams. And you can see I work on my Fungusaurs quite often. My IP that I'm trying to launch this November. I do some large prints, some various projects for various friends. And you can see some older stuff where I made like a whole Aquaman costume for myself. Stuff like that. Back to Twitch. Let's see. Alright, Keto's saying that you know, you're looking into a 3D printer on Facebook. There's a bunch of people recommending stuff on Twitch. The Mini, the Monoprice Mini is about $189. The Monoprice FDM Select, that's the one it's called. So that might be something you want to look into. I'll type that in the Facebook chat. And then the CR10. The Tornado is an excellent cost, below $300 for 12-inch by 12-inch by 14-inch volume print by Chrome Illusion. I haven't used that one, so I can't really endorse it, but I mean that's a happy endorsement I'd be glad to make if it's like that big of a build volume. Side Effects saying 3D Hubs is the way to go. I used to really like 3D Hubs. I was a part of it, but when they had a community, Now 3D Hubs is kind of like Shapeways. They handle the printing, they send stuff to you. But it's not bad in the sense that it is another service that you can use. And they have probably a better quality control now that they manage all the prints themselves. But 3D Hubs, Shapeways, what is the one in Belgium? The other one that's the 3D printing service. Is it Modeler or Matter something? Matter? I don't know. I know there's another one that's based, a 3D printing service that's based near in Europe. That's like the Shapeways of Europe. So if any of you know what that is on Twitch, let me know what that is. But yeah, I didn't have a 3D printer for the first year that I was teaching 3D printing, and that was because I was just using the 3D printing services and other friends printers and maker spaces. So, but the good thing about having one and owning one is that you can prototype often. Dimitri's here on Facebook is reminding me it's called Materialize. So that's a really good service too. If you're around Europe, Materialize or iMaterialize. Side Effects is asking, is it good to make your own 3D shop with making custom 3D stuff for customers? All right, so I could talk about this because I did it, and it depends. So this is my 3D shop, 3dsmids.com, and I take on maybe 1 or 2 gigs a month because this is kind of a side project for me. I like to specialize in transforming 2D characters into 3D for pitches, for client pitches for movies, animations, games, and I work with people to help bring their characters to life and just trying to do it as appealing of a translation as I can. I often get too much work and I send it out to friends of mine and students of mine. But this is basically sometimes the job because I wanted it and I couldn't get someone to hire me for it sometimes. So I basically created it for myself. And that's what doing a business is. You can make a job that you want to have and put it out there. And so that's basically a bunch of Form 2 prints and prototypes that I've done. And if you scroll down, you can see I shared the process of how I work with a client to refine their vision. They can send me drawovers. We do keyshot renders. We do print prototypes. Once that's approved, then we can even do silicone molding and multiples, and even do paint. And I show a bit of what I've done. This is a third of the prints that I've done. I've done a lot more prints now that I can't even show. And a little FAQ section. And that's all you need, and you can open up a business now. You just need a website. I also offer 3D print training on mine. There's the Mold 3D class I referred to, and then there's a class that I can do live for people. Kind of have a curriculum for a workshop. And more samples of my work. So if you set this up, you can create a website for yourself and become a 3D printing service, and also just offer, to sculpt stuff for people. Now that doesn't mean you're going to get any work. That's just you put it out there. And I usually get hit up, a few times a week with, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, and I just have to email back and forth with the client. And most of the time it doesn't go anywhere. I'm like 5 or 6 emails in with someone, and then they just drop off. Or I drop off. If people want me to work with them, they have to keep checking in with me because I've got a lot of different projects going on at any given time. That said, when I started 3D Smiths, I thought I would, partner with a lot of artists, sell digital models that people could have 3D printed on their own regularly, and it would just be a store kind of shop for 3D models for, characters that I really like working with and character artists that, I want to host on my shop. But there's a lot of hassle with managing all those contracts, managing who gets paid how much, as also the logistics of getting stuff printed and sent to people. Unless it's through a service like Shapeways, it's hard to just send 3D files and hope people can print it. Because I can't prepare files for every FDM printer and every SLA printer. It's tough to manage all the logistics of that kind of massive business. But I use 3D Smiths now as my development shop for Fungusaurs, the property that I'm building. So once you set up a business and you do the whole LLC and you can figure out how you're doing taxes, like I tax my LLC as an S-Corp, Once you figure out those logistics and you figure out how to pay yourself, how to save money aside for taxes, then you can just use your business for what you need. So in case in point, 3D Smiths for me is much more of a development shop now, where I develop fungusaurs, my own IP, where I've created these 8 different characters, launching a blind box toy line, and kind of, building the world around them. The Instagram, and now we're beta testing for the augmented reality app too. And you can follow along in the development diary to see how it came about, the idea from going to expos with just selling 3D prints to having, a Kickstarter for a blind box, and then developing the augmented reality app, making an animated series pitch. So you can kind of see what I'm working on there, fungusaurs.com. But in any case, I think that's enough questions and explaining, schmoozing. Let's get back to doing some sculpting, and let's jump into ZBrush now. Let's close up some of this stuff. The project I'm doing for another client. I'm going to clear that out. Okay, that is not clearing out. There it goes. I'm going to delete all. Doing some jewelry stuff for clients as well. And now let's open up something new. No, not something new. I want to work on Logan, where we left off on it. Ryan Winch's character, a friend of mine and a concept artist. I've used on Fungusaurs before. And I forgot to update you on this. So, let's start by just updating you on this character, Ryan Winch's Logan character, which I started sculpting in my stream, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks ago. But I've only put in about maybe 4 hours into this so far. But we've got the character blocked out. The pose is pretty blocked out. I like how dynamic it is, and I like how stable it is. We've got the backpack refined a bit more. Not a lot, but just did the first pass of sculpting on the backpack, the straps. Did Aiman brush stuff last week on it. I want to work on the face today. Just sculpt away a little, on the face and the clothing. And let's just see how far we can get in about an hour. It's not that long. But when I got it to this point last week, this was plenty good to try printing it at mini scale. And I like printing stuff at miniature scale, about 28 millimeters, to get a sense of what it would be like for checking in real life. So there's the miniature print. Now, it may be a bit hard to get the camera to focus in on it because sometimes this auto zoom is on. Hold on, let me turn off auto zoom. There's got to be a way to do that here. See, general, camera, video, output, stream. I think I have to do that out of my actual camera settings. It's kind of a pain. Let's see. Might be this place here. Webcam controller. Webcam options. Autofocus off. Alright, now let's try. Maybe I should turn autofocus off when I'm looking at that small thing. Autofocus on. There we go. Sweet. Figured it out. Alright. So there's the print for Ryan Winch's Logan character. You can see the backpack actually turned out pretty nice. Swerping on over to the front. And you can see this whole character now. And it's really good to print at mini scale because this didn't use much resin at all. This is like a $2 print. Not even. But the good thing is, now I can see the forms. I can see how light interacts with it. I can see how stable it is. I can see how things flow. And this was a very quick sculpt. About 4 hours or so into this sculpt, doing a print like this, this already kind of looks finished when you have it sitting on a shelf. but I want to make it a bit better. And this tells me things I want to see. Like this strap to me over here up at the top is way too long. And I can tell this right away once I print it. Like this is a bit long. It's kind of nice because it makes the character seem younger, because it feels like this backpack was designed for someone much larger and older. So in that sense, I do like this long strap, but it's a bit too long for me. So I can cut that down. I like the way his hand rests, his arm here rests on his knee. So I like that. I like the pose. And even with this backpack kind of overhanging behind his back a bit, I know that this pose is stable enough to hold this up if I print it in one go. I may not have to do any slicing or keying on this, which I love whenever I can do that. Alright, so did the mini print. Now let's move on to continuing refining the sculpt, and we'll do a full, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 inch print later. I'm guessing 4 or 5 because this is a big base, and that'll probably be the limiting factor of how tall we can make this in one go. I'll probably print this 2 or 3 weeks, so that gives me some more time to sculpt it, because I don't really have much time to sculpt it outside of this streams, but I'll have to make some, for sure. What is happening here? Oh, okay. Make it tiny. Making it tiny. All right. Sean Lake saying, retopologizing an asymmetrical item. Hey man, I like to sculpt asymmetrically. It's how you can bring in a lot of life into the character and figure out the pose and a lot of stuff. So now that we're at it, let's just sculpt this dude. I'm going to hide everything but the face, maybe the hair, maybe the body. Let's see. Let's turn on these ears, because these ears are kind of just plug in. There's the body, front of the body. Gee, where's his neck at? I turn on my tools until I find his neck. There he is. Okay. Alright, so that's really all I need right now. I don't even need this piece, because I want to just focus on the area I want to sculpt. Let's go with something like a Sculpting material. And you can see it's pretty low res right now. Did a very, very quick sketch. And let's just refine this a bit now. Might be better to sculpt this symmetrically and then tweak, but I don't know. Let's just have some fun asymmetrically. It's got the Sculpting material. I kind of want that on everything, so let's go to Z plugin, Subtool Master, and let's fill color and material. And I'll just unify everything, so it'll be one less thing to get distracted by, you know, new color. All right. Answering some questions on Twitch. Hannibal EX is saying he wants to do quarter scale sideshow style statues. I'd recommend not the Form 2 to start. I'd recommend something like the Raise, because you can print really big and it won't cost you much. You can prototype, you can test, you can play, and it won't, you know, kill your budget. The Form 2, if you're printing big things, it's going to get expensive. You know, it's going to get into, you know, $1,000 or more to print something really big. You know, with a lot of detail, with a lot of, you know, pieces. So if you're just starting out 3D printing like you're saying you are, I'd say get an FDM machine, something like the Raise. Get familiar with it, have fun prototyping, and then you can achieve the quality you want. Because at that price, you might as well buy sideshow figures, you know, to print them. Okay. All right, cool. So let's get this started. I'm going to pull up the concept so I can see it on my secondary monitor. And let me show you guys what it looks like as well. So this is the Logan Pilgrim character by Ryan Winch for his Space Pilgrim series. It's a really fun illustrated children's sci-fi book. So you guys are interested in sci-fi and you want your kids to be interested in sci-fi, check out Space Pilgrim. And so this was the character in the first book. He was about 11 to 12, so he's kind of a derpy face. He's like, he's a kid, you know, kids are derps. But he was very kind of cute, appealing character, but determined, trying to find his mom, and he's willing to go to space to find her. And this is what he used to look like. And now he's a bit older. He's a bit wiser, but he's still kind of derpy. He's like still kind of nervous. He's got that energy about him that he's just like, what am I looking at? What's happening? But that's the character that we're going to be sculpting right now. So it looks like, Ryan, the way at least he's drawn it out, it's kind of got a lot of polished faces, like, you know, this extruded eyebrow look. Really clean, not round, but kind of cat-like almost pupils, which may not be the case. In 2D, you get to cheat a little bit because you get to see things from multiple angles. You see the pupils here are solid lines. So I don't really know. I'm just going to make the pupils round because the pupils were round here. That makes sense to me. That they're a bit more cat-like and thin from a 3/4 perspective. So still want round pupils, kind of stubby, small nose going in. Mostly, basically, if you look at it, it's a square. The whole head is a square. And we just kind of add the features on. Now that we've analyzed it to death, let's do some sculpting. And I will hold off on answering a bit of your questions until I get a bit further in the sculpt. All right, cool. Questions are taking it easy anyway. All right. So how do we begin? Okay. What I want to do is sculpt each of these pieces one at a time. But I also want to, you know, make some progress. So let's turn off the hair for a second. Don't want to worry about that while I sculpt. You can see the head is pretty much a square as planned. Can this reference a bit larger? Alright, we need to get some eyes in there so we can have a base to sculpt off of. So let me make some eyes first. I really should have saved these because I can make them every freaking time. Go to a sphere 3D, make it a polymesh 3D. Go ahead and divide the geometry a little bit because we want it to be a bit clean and crisp. Make sure your perspective mode is turned off for what we're going to do next, which is basically just select a mask and draw a rectangular mask over the top of it, which will let you grab, I don't know, about this much or so. We'll go to the move, and I like using the move transpose for one simple reason. When you've got a concave shape like this, you can just kind of pull in and it becomes concave on the other side. Or it should be. Let's try again. There we go. And so you can see that's already kind of concaving in. And we can really push that. We can make it a lot more extreme. Let's try again. Whoop. There we go. Pull from there. Let's pull it in a bit. Move the whole thing in a bit as well that way. And let's take a look what that's looking like. We could see just half of it. Then you get the idea of how concave this is getting. I'm going to go to my display properties, turn on double-sided. There we go. So there's how concave I want this. And another thing I could do now is kind of just select the bottom right there, and it'll select, or it should select, that area that we're going to use as the pupil. And I'm going to unselect all of this other stuff. There we go. And now we've got just the pupil selected. So we can invert that selection and do the opposite. We can come right here, tap on the center, and we can move this whole thing out. So you can either just straight up move it, and you've got like a really sharp creased pupil, or you can move it up slowly, like the same way we did, transposing and then pulling up against it. And then you've got a round, soft pull. You can just pull it up and down from the middle. And there you've got a basic eye that we can use. Now, in doing something like this, and I don't have any UVs on this eye or anything like that, we can project stuff on later. I actually want to try the new UV peel in ZBrush, so looking forward to seeing that. But when you're 3D printing, you don't need UVs. You don't need to worry about topology as much. You can just sculpt. And one thing that I found that helps eyes look good is not just keeping it basic like this, but adding something as a highlight. So let me do that. I'm going to go to my Insert Primitives and press M. Navigate over to a Insert Sphere. I'm going to delete lower on the subdivisions, and I can just add something like a sphere. Now this is come and drawn out pretty much right from the bottom up, and it's a bit too deep, too floaty. So I want to go to this depth slider and bury it in a bit. That for you guys is under brush, depth, and then just pull that up and down. That looks about right. And I can draw that something in like here. Now what this will do is it'll add like a bit of a highlight, like a kick. So when you have a sculpture, something like this will help to break up the monotony of the eye. And it'll look better. Now, what I want to do next is go ahead and Dynamesh this whole thing together. Because the two different poly groups, let's unite the poly groups and Dynamesh. Now let's see what happens at 128 resolution. 128, bit janky, don't want that. Let's go ahead and make it like 500. Try again. Better. Let's make it a grand. Alright, that looks to be done and pretty clean. I can tap smooth the top a couple of times. Soften up some of these edges. Alright, that looks good. But now it's a bit heavy. It's something like 2.6 million polys. And we don't want that if we're making a custom insert mesh brush. So I'm going to go to Z plugin, decimation master, and pre-process this and decimate it. So then we'll have our eyes. And eyes are kind of the starting point that I build everything else around. I'm going to play some cheesy Japanese Zen spa music because I feel like it. Digital Armory saying Prusa is releasing a resin printer soon. Looks like a higher quality version of the Photon or Wanhao D7. That sounds interesting, dude. I'm so excited about the new SLA printers because the more competition there is, the better it is for us, the consumer. You know, like Formlabs printers will have to become cheaper when other people are putting SLA printers out at, you know, a grand, 1,500. At least that's what I'm hoping. Sean, have I heard of Death Cab for Cutie? I have. I don't know if I can play any music that's straight up, you know, popular. Because I think YouTube's algorithms, when this stuff is posted, will just kick me off if I play any Kanye or something like that. Alright, that was too cheesy, so I'm switching to some Japanese lofi hip-hop mix. Alright, okay, so that should have pre-processed by now. Let's try it now. Decimate. Alright, so I decimated that at 50%, and that's 1.3 mil. Too much. Let's decimate it like 5%. At 5%, I'm still retaining all the detail, and it's still 130,000 polys. So let's go ahead and edit at 1%. Alright, now it's about 26k polys, and you can see I'm still retaining all my detail. But 26,000 polys is solid. ZBrush can work with 1 billion almost now, so that should be good to create an insert mesh brush. Go have it drawn out on your screen, pointing upwards towards you, and then you can go to Brush, create insert mesh. Let's create a new one. In the brush palette, there it is. I should save it because I need it all the time. So let's call it IMM. Alright. With that saved, I'm going to go back to my sculpt here of Logan, and let's start working on this face by drawing out that eye. So you can see again, it's pretty far out. I want to reduce the depth of it, and then draw it out again. Now he's got pretty big eyes, so I want to make them nice and big and appealing. And also just looking at how this character is looking directionally, he's looking a bit more off that direction. And let's move it and bury it in a bit to the head. Alright, that's about right. Let's... okay. Because it's on the same layer as the head, I want to split it off. So I'm going to do split unmask points. That is under subtools split unmask points. And now, let me see if I can do this. Here we go. If you hold Control and Alt, you can just drag from one into the other, and it becomes its own piece. Kind of duplicates it. And I want to rotate this eye as well a little bit, probably a bit more than the other one. And let's place it properly. Alright, that should give us a good base to start from. And now that we've got the eyes, and they should be on their own subtool layer, let's check. They are. Perfect. Now we can start sculpting the face around a bit. I don't want to use the insert mesh brush anymore. And the face is literally just this. I'm not worrying about the ears, and I'm probably not going to worry about the eyebrows either. I'm going to smooth this out to start. And focus on the base, big shapes. And you could tell there's pinching happening here from when it was still a poly cube that we started this from, or a poly sphere. So the first thing I want to do is just dynamesh this, so I don't have to worry about topology. There we go. And maybe I can even work this in Sculptris Pro mode. I don't know. Don't need to right now because this is not a lot of extreme changes happening. Just start by smoothing out this face, smoothing out the features, and let's start finding the forms. So I'm going to switch to my clay brush, or my clay tubes. I like the clay tubes brush. Draw out a little bit of this nose. Give a sense of where the eyes are going to be. Now he's got a bit of a perturbed expression. He's a bit of a perturbed character. That's okay. I'm basically making the eyebrow ridges, and then I'll make the eyebrows separately. We want to give some space so we can actually see the full eye. Cut into this eye socket a bit. But the more white of the eye you see, the more scared the character looks. So you don't want him to look scared or excited. And let's start making some lids. Now, as I do this, I'm going to periodically be dynameshing. And that's the beautiful thing about Dynamesh, is I can just do it as much as I want and not have to worry so much about topology. Like this kind of thing. When this kind of thing happens and I smooth and it's creating that pinch, I can just Dynamesh, and then when I smooth, there's no pinch. Now, one thing about eyes is that they're usually widest at the point of the pupil. The direction the pupil's looking, that's when the eye kind of pops open. So I'm going to make that pretty nice and wide. Let's see what he's looking like with just bottom eyelids. Not even top ones yet. He looks so old and scared. And that's because I only have the bottom eyelid so far. I need to add the top ones in. Lighten up those wrinkles because he's a baby. And I can even pinch them. So using the pinch brush there to refine the shape of my eyebrows. And you see I'm making them pretty thick because I'm printing this. This is a printed character. So if you want to see those eyebrows, you got to make them pretty large. Not eyebrows, eyelids. If you want to see those eyelids, you got to make them pretty large and thick. Alright. There we go. So there's the bottom eyelids. Let's do the top ones. Now you could also do this by adding a sphere and then just cutting, clipping, or clipping that sphere. I can show you that technique. I'm going to use that same eye subtool, duplicate it, solo it out. Let's do a Dynamesh on it. What? It's so funky. It kind of gets rid of the one when I Dynamesh. Let's unify the polygroups. Try again. There we go. For some reason, when I was not unifying the polygroups, it would just delete my other eye. Funky. Alright, so I'm Dynameshing this at a pretty low resolution. Smoothing it out, go into deformation, clicking inflate. You know what, before I do that, I'm going to save this scene. Logan Quattro. Let's inflate this up. 5. Maybe inflate this up a bit more. 5. 5. 5. And I'm just doing this here in the deformation tab. 5. There we go. Starting to get about the right size we want. Maybe another 5. Okay. Alright, now that we've got those eyes kind of, the eyelid for the top in there, I can use my clip curve. Just clip. There we go. Dynamesh that whole thing. Maybe divide it a few times, get a higher resolution to Dynamesh at. And now I've got the upper eyelids that are separate from the bottom eyelids, or the face. And I can kind of make them independently. Because you can do a lot of expression with just the eyelids. Now he looks drunk. And like I said, the more of the white of the eye you see, the more surprised your character looks. But that can be a good thing. It makes some characters look youthful. Alright, and I wanted to keep these eyelids separate for the top because I'm still working on the shape of the face, so there might be some drastic changes. Alright, let's switch to our damn standard brush. Get a sense of this mouth going. Now he's got a very tiny chin. Kind of want to hint at it though, right now. So I know what's happening as I sculpt. He's got his mouth kind of gaping open like her. And seems to have pretty clear upper lip. So I can kind of draw it out with my damn standard. Sculpt it in with inflate. Poof it out. Poof it out and then, you know, try to create that lip shape that Ryan came up with. I don't want to give him too much of fish lips either, but gotta stay on concept. Don't want to like have a character that doesn't look like the concept that you're given. But it's always a process of finding that, you know, it's never straightforward. You gotta find what the character is like. Now I want him to look a bit more surprised and shocked than Ryan's concept, because you always got to exaggerate the sculpt when you print it, or when you're in 3D in general. You got to exaggerate it a bit more for it to read as well as the 2D does. Just using pinch here to find the edges of the nose. Now he's got some clearly defined nostrils, as well as some clearly defined separation from the top of the nostrils and the sides, which isn't as common. Usually you want to simplify these characters. Let's see what I would look like. No harm in playing and trying. And let's go in and draw some nose holes, nostrils. And nostrils aren't circles, all right? They're never just straight circles. They're always like a bit more ovals in the direction that you're looking. Now, this is a pretty geometric character, so I want to kind of keep it geometric. I may have to deviate a bit to make it a bit more appealing, deviate from the concept. But for now, I'm going to try to stick to it and then show the client. Not the client. This is a personal project for a friend. Kind of did a little work trade earlier where he would do some concept stuff for me and I would do this for him. And I've been so busy, it's been hard to get time to do my part, because he did the concepts for me like a while back. I haven't actually ended up using those concepts fully yet because it was for an animation Bible for Fungusaurs, which I'm still developing, which I'll probably be developing well into 2019. Alright, his nose looks to me like it kind of goes in quite quite a bit more. And even though this is supposed to be pretty sharp, I'm going to start rounding parts out. Alright, we want to, show the separate of the nasolabial fold. That's the edges over here. Don't have anything there right now, which makes it look really weird. We do a lot of expression through our nasolabial fold. Whenever you have a wrinkle like this, that's the nasolabial fold. The character changes so much depending on what this is doing, But I like to always over sculpt a bit and then refine. And by refine, I just mean smooth the hell out of things. But what that does is it gives you the shapes that you need. Again, since this is a younger character, I want to give him pretty nice big poofy cheeks. But obviously I don't want to do something like this, because then he looks super old. Because you can see like skeletal structure almost. That zygomatic arching thing, you don't want too much of that. But it's fine to add it in so you know what the character's anatomy is. Like for example, the zygomatic arch goes there and that way. Like I know some sculptors that like to full on make skulls of their characters before they go in and then poof it out. So to each their own. Million different ways to do any one thing in ZBrush. I do like to soften things up as much as I can. Now, this resolution is already too high for me, 600. I like to work at the lower resolution until I have to move up, basically. Some people take it to an extreme, like Shane Olsen. He works at he's not streaming, by the way, later today. Shane's wiped from the weekend. I think he's got some meetings in town. But Shane likes to keep everything super, super low res and only use dynamic subdivisions. Which I'll have to try his method one day. Hopefully one day soon. (9:28). We've got about half an hour to go. One thing I can do is try to pinch and find a bit more of a plane here between his eyelid and his cheek, which will help further frame his face. It's all about finding these planes. Use a bit of pinch over on the mouth as well. I'll probably have to come in here and add some teeth and some internals, like a tongue and a mouth. I'm not too worried about those right now because I still have to find the big shapes. You may want to pull the mouth out a little bit. And now kids don't really have much of a chin in general. Do want to leave space for it, but I'm gonna, now that I've made it, I can kind of smooth it down. Blend it in more. Now he's got a bit of a whole jawline thing going, which kids don't usually have a full-on jawline, but this is a pretty square character. We want him to appear kind of strong. Let's also start adding in, inflate this whole thing a bit. That'll help him feel more childlike. Just rounding out more of his face. And then if we want to, we can start using H polish to find more of that face plane that Ryan's got here. To help define that character. We'll start working on the neck as well to get the neck anatomy to start lining up. I'll probably merge the neck into the head because that makes sense to do. The neck a bit wider. Characters always look so funny when you're starting off with them. Get the whole head to be a bit larger. Cool, cool. Smoothen out these lines. I want to add the planes, but I don't want them to be clearly defined lines if I can avoid it. At least for now. Let's match the expression more with what is actually going on in Ryan's concept. You want to spend a decent amount of time on the eyes and this whole eye area because, you know, windows to the soul and whatnot. They really help you find the character. Like in this simple eye change, eyelid change, he's kind of more like, what? What the huh? What the who? Who said what? Now, if anyone has a problem with my sound effects, go watch another stream, because I like making sound effects. We were just having a discussion about that. Me and Tomas Whittlebach and a few other people were like, it's our stream, man. Let us stream how we want. This nasolabial fold, whenever you add it, it makes a character seem old instantly. So you shouldn't add it lightly. But I do want that slight, subtle change in face, you know, the variation. I guess I could just do that with the move tool as well. Move the cheeks out forward. Make him really cheeky. He's so cheeky. Honestly, some of these guys, like I was talking to all the Disney guys on Friday, move brush, man. That's kind of their bread and butter, the move brush. Because it's all about finding that appealing form for them. They know what they're looking for. It's just a matter of getting there. And so you just move the points. And this is why it helps to be a bit lower poly. Yeah, already finding this character, you know? Kind of forming in front of our eyes. Forming and taking shape. Cut these in a bit clearer. These eyelids. Let's find that upper edge again. Just using dam standard, holding Alt to pull out rather than cut in. Got to meet Damien Canderel again this weekend. French artist, inventor of the dam standard brush and the dam standard 2.0, which I haven't really started using much yet. Dam standard 2.0. You guys use the dam standard 2.0? You like it better? Now this expression that I'm trying to create with the eye of the upper eyelid, it's probably best to create it with the actual eyebrow a bit. I'm going to try to minimize this one. Looks like Smeagol right now. Everyone looks like Smeagol. Every character goes through a phase looking like Smeagol. It's a bit better. Let's try to get that neck involved, and let's try to make these eyebrows so we have more of the elements we need to make this happen. And then we'll take away the lumpiness. Can try some stuff too with the chin. If I pull it out too much, he doesn't look young anymore. And if you pull it down, for sure he won't. Starts looking old. Okay, so now let's find some more expression in there. Give him some room for his cranium. Needs a brain. He's a big brain kid. Alright, let's merge this bit down with the neck now. Save first. Looking for. Okay, good. Alright. I think I need chin to go up a little bit along the sides. Can't give him too square of a jaw because then he looks way too old. And let's merge it down with the neck. So let's find the neck. Let's divide that a few times. And let us merge it into the body, or into the head. And heck, why not into the body too? Because we'll do some planning on the body right now. And let's Dynamesh. Again, about 600 resolution. There we go. Start softening this. And let's start finding some of this neck anatomy. Despite the fact that we're finding it, we're not actually going to keep all of it. It's good to start off with and then maybe not keep. So, what is neck anatomy? Basically, you got to figure out what your clavicle is. So whatever direction the character is facing, you've got to figure out that little dip that happens right there. And basically the central line. What is the central line for your neck? Something like that, right? And what you got to do then is find the sternocleidomastoid. It's a line that goes from the back of the cranium right there to the front right there. So it needs to do something like that. Now this might be better to just do with a clay brush and add it in. I'm going to just add on that sternocleidomastoid. It kind of forks into two right here. So it kind of opens up. But it basically goes from the front of the neck all the way to the back. So that needs to be found pretty much in every sculpt. Now you can overdo it like I'm doing right now, or you can basically just simply add a line and people get it. You can add it this way too. Like I said, this is an appealing character, so we don't need it. But you gotta find it. And I tend to always over-sculpt, get the anatomy in, put my markers, and then I will under-sculpt, like smooth it away. Better to have had that detail at one point than not have it at all. You can figure out where the deltoid is going to be. Figure out where the shoulders are going to be. You can start pulling those out. Figure out where the trapezius for the character is going to be. Backs don't do it like this. They usually are a bit higher. And the clavicle is the front end of the chest. So the chest kind of comes out a bit as the neck goes into the chest, which creates these little triangular pockets along the sides, like right around here usually. Little triangles. I'm going to smooth all this away. Zoom out, adjust this detail. Smooth. Get some more neck in there again. Hard when like the character's back of the head is so weirdly shaped. It's like such a square head. So you're getting a lot of separation where normally there wouldn't be any. Let's take this down to like 400 resolution. May lose a little bit of resolution on the face, but I want to be able to quickly and easily find the character's anatomy in like a simplified, stylized sense, rather than, you know, having it all in there. I'm not going to make him into a hunchback. He's already got a backpack to do that. So just smoothing, finding those forms, finding those lines. Sometimes all you need is that just indication of it. And you don't really need to do more than that. Indication that you know what you're doing. But not really about you. It's the indication that the character is a real character. Alright, we're at 9:45 now. Another 15 minutes or so before we wrap this up. Let me check if you guys have any questions on the stream. Haven't been checking those questions for a little bit. Okay. Now his chest isn't really going to be visible, but I kind of want to draw it out for myself. Identify where the sternum is going to be. Identify where the trapezius is going to kick off. The serratus anterior here. Kind of like little triangles. And then the abs would kind of come in. The obliques. And then you would have the characters. Kind of, this is like the sternum area under the chest. And then the character's abs would start. If he has abs. I don't know why we're giving abs to a 10-year-old. But always better to start with more and then take away rather than not have it. Because he'll probably have clothes on anyway. Alright, want to find that spine line. And then just, figure out where your forms are, because that's how we're going to pull out those arms and have them make sense. Now with the back, just simplifying because I don't really want to add too much detail. Like, I'm not really going to add, everything. But it's good to know where it is. Even with this kind of super lumpy, super quick sculpting, you get to know that I know a little bit about anatomy, the little bit of studying I've done, because I can find those shapes. I know what those insertion points for those muscles are. And it's basically, I'm nowhere near as good as some guys like, Andrew Corse and Scott Eaton and like those guys that have mastered and dedicated themselves towards anatomy. But just finding those shapes will help take your sculpt a long way. It'll help take your sculpting a long way. And I'm over sculpting the hell out of it right now to give you guys a sense of finding a character's anatomy, even if he doesn't have clothes on. Because even if it's a stylized character and you don't need any of this, you want to be able to know where it's at. I'm going to find the breakup of that deltoid, bring those clavicles back. Yeah, it's fine. I'm going to need to simplify anyway. Now, he's not really that muscular, He's a kid, so I'm going to start toning that down so he doesn't look like Drax. But now that we found the shapes, you know we can do something with them. And that's half the fun, honestly, is just finding those shapes. Because we're going to be putting clothes on him anyway. And we got to keep the squareness of that head. Wow. Switch to the standard, not the damn standard. There we go. All right. Coolio. Found that. Want to just have a hint of it, basically. Not overkill, but hint it and then pinch it. All right. Looking good. And more than likely, I think his lower neck, looking at the concept, gets covered up by clothes anyways. So I'm not really going to take the time to actually perfect this anatomy or anything like that. Just kind of getting the idea across for myself. Of how it would flow. And his spine too, I think it might do something like this. Slightly different entirely, depending on the backpack he's carrying. Okay. Let's go ahead and, for the last thing we'll do, we'll just kind of add the character's eyebrows. Kind of bury that a bit more. You can hint at the sternocleidomastoid without actually having the whole thing in there. Much better. And this is just my way of doing it, you know, just finding the forms the way that I know best. And then over sculpting and then removing. There's definitely faster ways, and I think the more you work on this stuff, the faster you get at it. All right, cool. Liking that. I'm going to smooth out all of this now. Don't really need any of it. Now this muscle, it inserts under the deltoid. You gotta just leave that room open for that. C. X off. There we go. Cool, cool. That's what I like about ZBrush is you can make large global changes and small ones at the same time. And let's bring those little triangles back in. Right there. And right there. It's kind of what we can dig into a little bit. Alright, now this neck is pretty much almost entirely invisible once you have the clothing on, so I'm not going to waste any more time with the anatomies. Let's now get into the eyebrows. Now, how do I make these eyebrows? This is the fastest way. I think the fastest way is to mask this eyebrow area. Make sure I'm not selecting anything in the back. Good. And let's do an extract. So we'll go to Subtool, Extract, Extract. That looks good. Accept that. Smooth it down a bit. Now with the extract tools, you may get very just surface level eyebrows. So what I want to do is with my mask lasso selected, just kind of grab the back end, move it, like I just like to bury it. It's called drafting, and you want to bury those eyebrows deep into the head so that you can really sculpt at ease and you don't need to worry about them floating on top of the head. When you're sculpting for print and toys, drafting is very important. Still haven't perfectly found the forehead here. Don't want him to look too caveman-esque, so I don't want to pull it out too much, but I don't want it to not exist at all either. Start shaping these eyebrows to match a bit more of the concept. He's a bit perturbed by what he sees. Let's find the edges. So I'll go back to my damn standard. And let's get some more subdivisions going. And let's see, the easiest way to do this is probably identify the center part and use my H polish to figure out these planes. Maybe trim dynamic would be a good fit too, because these are pretty hard-edged shapes that Ryan wants in his eyebrows. Okay. Already feeling better with those eyebrows in place. I'm gonna dynamesh those as well. Not to the head or anything like that, but just start getting them in. Now Ryan may not have intended to have these eyebrows be so geometric, but since he's done that, I'm going to try to show it to him like that. For all I know, he's actually in the stream right now saying something, but I haven't actually checked the chat log in a bit. I'll get to that in a minute, I promise, as I wrap up, because it is 10 o'clock. Square off these eyebrows. He's got very square eyebrows. Smooth the whole thing just a touch. H polish the whole thing just a touch. May use pinch. And we'll do more moving around of the eyebrows and really find them later. I'm going to change the shape of this so his cheek actually comes up a bit. Looks more kid-like when you do that. And these eyelids, the bottom eyelids, kind of just are smaller. I may yet make them larger, but let's see. We will see. Alright, I know Shane's not doing his stream later today, so I might just take another extra 5 minutes or so to wrap up mine. Let's go ahead and color fill object on this, the eyebrows. And the eyebrows we can use to really help refine that expression a bit more, you know, like how is he feeling? Like, is he really scared, or is he just, you know, a little bit? We can also smooth out the forehead now. Don't need any double sculpting going on there. I think this whole area we've got covered with the top eyelid. Turn this into little anime eyes. Keeping it all nice and clean. Here we go. Divide that another time. Let's turn on the hair. Actually, let's turn on everything. Alright, there's so much extra stuff in this scene. I gotta clean up. Looks like Robin with all that extra stuff turned on. Looks like I got the whole extra Logan. That's the bigger backpack we had made first. Still some double head stuff going on. Let's see. Oh, that's just the hair. We can start refining that hair now. Now we saw with the body what we were doing was trying to find that deltoid and where his arm's going. But clearly his arm is coming forward. So the whole shape starts changing. While this arm is going backwards. Still, makes sense to move a little bit of this arm to reflect that deltoid now. Let's cover that up. And that makes more sense now from a sculpt perspective. However, let's see, let's undo back a bit. I think I may match the deltoid to the arm because that strap is perfectly positioned over there. Look how creepy this looks. Looks like Venom. Anyone excited about the Venom movie? No, a few people that worked on it. The guys at Aaron Sims. Concept Shop. Though that movie's probably a movie that, like, 14 different studios all worked on together. That's always what ends up happening these days. Alright, got the neck, got that face. Now this face is looking a bit different from Ryan's concept. The nose, for example, looks a bit smaller in general. So I can start shrinking that nose. Whoop. It's almost a constant process to find that shape and that face and that appeal that the character has. But we will find it. Now his jawline, we haven't defined that at all. So we probably should, because he's going to have a jaw. And that means I can further define the sternocleidomastoid because it's supposed to connect on the back of the head here. It's going to use clay to get rid of some of this stuff and connect the sternocleidomastoid to the proper place, which is something like here, rather than going so far back. So don't be stressed out by the process of it. It's just working through it, working through the sculpt. Okay, let's hide that again. Alright, much better already. Much better because we're starting to get the shapes that we want. Now, even if I do want to give him a square jaw, I can. But now he has a jaw. He didn't even have a jaw before. And with my sculpting style in particular, just finding that all these shapes, finding that anatomy, it's an evolving process. Evolves as the sculpt goes, as I see it from multiple angles. So it's like a full kind of, few days to find everything about that character. Start de-smeagling him. Let's try giving him a bit more squared off eyes, like the concept suggests. Now, he's been in space for a bit, so I imagine his hair is pretty unkempt. Once he's been getting regular barber visits. and start figuring out what that would look like. Figure out the flow of that. Probably too unkempt there. This side is definitely, the flow is all on here. Alright, and this is going to start looking better and better the more we work on it, the more we find it. Like already, little subtle changes that I make to the overall shape make him look younger, make him look more appealing, and make him look more like the concept. Now I gotta get to work. So I'm gonna stop streaming now. Thanks to everyone who's watching. Hope you guys enjoyed seeing me find this character's face a bit. And we will continue working on him as we go. Yeah, definitely already can see, looking at the concept, what I want to do. Want to make these lower eyelashes, the lower eyelids a lot bigger. Maybe pull these eyes out a bit further. Whoop. Yeah, I could keep tweaking this forever. That's the fun part about sculpting, is when you get into it, you really just want to stay in that world. All right. Well, I'm going to sign off before I keep at it too much. But it's starting to get there. We got pretty far compared to where we started. So let's call it a day here. Check what's going on with you guys. Talking about stream lagging. Cool, cool. Got a few more people joining. Oh, thanks so much. Almost 100 of you watching. Appreciate that. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next week. I'll be back, I don't know, probably the same time, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. or so. Thanks for watching. See you next week. All right, guys. Later, guys and gals. Adios, muchachos.